Welcome back to Becoming Your Best Version. I am your host, Maria Leonard Olson. I'm a civil litigation attorney in Washington, D.C. I am an author, podcaster, mentor to women in recovery, and journalist. I also am a TEDx speaker, and I'm going for another TEDx talk, so please take a listen to my TEDx talk entitled Turning Life's Challenges into a Force for Good. It has a capacity, I believe, to help a lot of people not feel so alone with their big and little t traumas. You can find it by going to my website, marialeonardolson.com, or just Googling my name. And my most popular book is called 50 After 50, Reframing the Next Chapter of Your Life. It talks about what I did to change my life when I turned 50 and was rudderless, divorced, living alone for the first time, newly sober, and trying to figure it out. I recently, this year turned 60, so I'm currently at work on the book that I tentatively have called 60 After 60, Finding Serenity in Your 60s. I also have a book coming out about DNA test discoveries. Having found out at age 53 that the father who raised me is not my biological father, and in fact, my dad, biologically speaking, is a man I had watched on the big and small screens my entire life. He and I have a great relationship now. My birth certificate father passed away before I made this discovery, which was in some ways a blessing. And now I have another chance at a father daughter relationship of sorts with my 92-year-old biological father who lives in San Diego. In any event, I started this podcast 5 years ago. Well, almost 5 years ago, because my work in the realm of women in midlife has brought me in contact with amazing women who have inspired me and I think will inspire you. So each week, I interview one of these women to elevate their voices and to share their inspiring stories. Christine Fruehwirth is one of them. She has had more than 20 years of career counseling and life coaching experience through her successful business called Flex Careers Consulting. Her focus and passion have consistently been helping stay at home parents return to the workforce and working parents who are looking for more balance in their lives. From 2009 to 2019, Christine also worked as a career consultant and instructor of a career management strategy course at George Washington University and most recently at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. During her years working in higher education, she developed an expertise in helping undergraduates of all majors recruit for and successfully obtain internships and full-time positions in the financial services industry. She spent a decade in that industry focused on consumer and later investment banking, working for major financial institutions including Bank of America, Capital One, and Wells Fargo. Her last few years in the industry were spent at Lending Tree on the senior leadership team. Christine has a new book out, a fantastic book called Surviving Life's Storms and Thriving in the Aftermath, which discusses the 4 stages of living that she developed and identifies as surviving, stabilizing, emerging, and thriving. In her book, she explores the distinct stages of the survive to thrive journey and how to apply this framework to careers, marriage, and relationships, as well as parenting. She includes what it takes to be able to move through these stages by addressing what is holding people back and the need to heal inner wounds. Christine was inspired to write Surviving Life Storms and Thriving in Its Aftermath because of her youngest son's incredible life journey the last 5 years, as well as wanting to share her own story in facing one challenge after another during the past decade, including losing loved ones, family estrangement, significant health issues, and divorce. This book includes stories and insights from individuals she's been blessed to know who can not only relate to, but in many cases have moved through the 4 stages of living. Her perspective is unique because of her 23 years of parenting, 20 years of career and life coaching experience, and 10 years of teaching college students. And her hope for this book is to help readers achieve their full potential no matter what stage of life they are in, be in a sustainable, thriving state going forward, and then directly help or motivate others on their survive to thrive journeys. Christine earned a Bachelor of Science degree in business from Villanova University and an MBA from Darden School of Business at the University of Virginia. Christine has earned her life and career coaching certifications through the Life Purpose Institute. She is also taking life coaching catch. Let me start that again. She has also taken life coaching classes through the Coaches Training Institute. Christine understands the joys and challenges of all types of work-family balance issues, as well as what employers are looking for, both for those starting in their careers and those re-entering the workforce. She resides in Potomac, Maryland, just outside DC, and enjoys spending time with her 3 adult children. Those who visit her website can schedule a free consultation. You can learn more and follow Christine at Flex Careers Consulting, Flex Careers, plural, consulting.com, and link up with her on LinkedIn or Instagram. And all of this is in the show notes, so you need not take notes. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you, Maria, for having me.
Well, there's a lot to cover here, and you finally put all this experience in a book. What
Yes.
made you decide to finally, I imagine you had to take a break from your extensive consulting and coaching career to write this book. What made you decide to write it?
So one of the things that I've always, from all my experiences, plus including parenting, has been, but also my clients, is just a lot of people get very stuck in their lives. And they get very discouraged. I see some people who are just surviving their lives. I see people who are stagnating in their lives. And working with me, I've been able to get them out of that and hopefully to more of a thriving state. But what I hear a lot of times, whether it's in an interview or reading an article, is that a lot of times in our society, people say you're either surviving or thriving as if those are the only two states of being. But I feel like a framework was necessary, almost like a bridge across the Grand Canyon, because it's too much of a leap to go from that one state where you're literally just surviving your life to then a thriving state. And only about 20% of people accomplish that. They only accomplish their full potential thriving state. Only 80% don't. And so my goal with the book, and the reason I wanted to write it, is I want to try to get those 80% of people to the 20% of people who are living up to their full potential. So however they define it. And I do actually try to define with components in the book of what full potential is. It also was inspired by my youngest son, who was in a deep depression, bullied relentlessly in middle school, had to pull him out of school, had to get him a lot of help. Was a very, very stressful time in our lives while I was also raising the other two and working. But helped him. I saw as he was progressing out of it, that there was some stages where he had to stabilize, and then we had to move him to a different school where he could emerge and thrive. And so those distinct stages and what they mean and how to move through them was really inspired by getting him through his own journey for the last 5 years.
It's so hard to watch our children suffer.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a parallel journey with family members as well, and it is tough. I sometimes think of parenting as ripping your heart out of your body, throwing it into the street, and seeing if it survives.
And you don't know that when you have babies.
No, you don't. Nobody told me.
No one tells you how tough it is, particularly as they get older.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other adage that comes to mind is small kids, small problems, big
Yes.
kids, big
I was thinking that exact thing as we were talking about that. Yes, that adage came up in my mind. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like your son, all your kids are doing well now.
They are. They are.
And
Very
so
much
do
so.
you think that your work and in writing this book and doing a deeper dive into the stages equipped you better to parent them in the individual ways that they needed?
Yes, I mean, my 18-year-old, my baby, he is now 18, and he still needs a lot of support here and there. He's going into his senior year of high school. He took this will be his 5th year of high school, which is a good thing for him. And my older two have always been pretty independent, pretty self-motivated, high achievers. But just even having 3 children and working and, struggling through a marriage, it was a lot to keep up with. And but he in particular was really struggling. And so I feel like this book can help young people, but it also can help people in middle age, our age group,
Mhm.
because I feel like a lot of people my age, friends and clients, are stuck. They're stuck in this idea of what's next. The empty nest can be a very, for some people, scary transition. I feel like it's as big of a transition as it is to become a parent in the first place. And I think that a lot of people don't know, their marriages may be a little stuck. They may just not know what their second act should be. So I feel that this book can also help people in that phase.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And I think in writing my own book, it helped me do further introspection and integration of life lessons,
Mhm.
and then be able to help the women that I mentor because I looked even deeper, peeled back more layers of the onion of my recovery from big T and little t traumas and life
Mhm.
challenges, which will continue
Mhm.
forever.
Right. Mhm. Absolutely. And you've overcome addiction, which is a issue I do talk a little bit about because I have a lot of people in my family who have addiction issues. I
Yeah.
talk about grief. I talk about estrangement,
Mhm.
and I talk about even one of the biggest things I've seen in my experience is how people live in denial,
Mm,
and how denial can be very destructive. It can be destructive in terms of your relationships. It can be destructive in terms of um, your ability to really face reality of what your situation is at the moment. So if you don't deal with your reality, you can't move forward. So I deal with
very,
that topic as well.
very true. And what do you do if your clients that you coach are surrounded by family members who choose to live in denial? You can't change other people, but what can you, what can you say to a client who's surrounded by people who live in denial?
So that actually hasn't come up as much as when they are themselves in denial.
Mm, gotcha.
So, and that's possible that that's a family dynamic.
Mhm.
But a lot of it is, since I don't really have a psychology therapy background, I tend to focus primarily on the client.
Mm,
And so I have had clients where they are clearly not dealing with their current life. I mean, they are, and what happens is the coping mechanisms step in where they're avoiding things.
right.
I call them obstacles. So we have to do something called overcoming blocks,
Mm,
where people really, it's really based on fears or negative beliefs about themselves.
yeah.
So, for
Yeah.
example, I had a recent client who, she just kept avoiding going back to work because she's just so afraid of the rejection. But
Mm,
I was able to tell her, like, you have beat cancer 3 times.
wow.
So if you can do that, you
Yeah.
can do this. And again, it's applying this framework that I've talked about, but it's also about like really understanding who you are first, and then really just what's the downside to taking the risk outside of, you might get a potential employer may say, I'm not interested. I mean, other than that, it's the payoff which is going to be better than just staying at home being really down about yourself and losing all that confidence. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I mean, to me it's really about, I really try to deal mostly with, I do understand the family dynamic, but a lot of times they do have support from other people to say, yeah, go for it, go back to the workplace. Or I deal with a lot of young adults because of that higher education experience, mostly young men, to be honest. It's usually college students or recent grads. I have 5 right now of young men who are in their early 20s who cannot figure out how to launch their lives, right? So it's like it's the failure to launch, so their parents are coming to me. But they're just wonderful young men. They just don't really, they just need the structure, and they need somebody who has is expertise to get them on the path.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I used to think, or I still think actually, that men of our generation were taught to equate stiff upper lip, stoicism with masculinity, but
Yeah.
that maybe the younger generation was freed of that so that they're more in touch with their emotions. Is that what you're finding with the next couple of generations?
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, that's
They're
a
more
good development.
they're more open to equality, gender equality.
Hmm.
I think what's really important, and I've been really studying this a lot, is that men need a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, they used to have, those defined roles. And trust me, I was in a marriage where it was a very traditionally roles. But but what's happening is with women, which is a good news, is we have come a long way, right? We are able to take care of ourselves financially. So marriage isn't something that it used to be, where we were economically dependent. And women are, in the workforce in huge numbers. We're getting more educated than men. And so men, though, are really falling behind. And so even in colleges, it's now flipped. More women than men are attending college. And so what's happening is men are just they're not sure what where their purpose is. And so I really do feel for this generation. They are more open, they're more open-minded, I should say. They're more open-minded, and they are, they're more in touch with their emotions, which I think is a good thing. And I've raised my boys to be like that, right?
Agreed.
Yeah,
Same. Well, it must be in some ways helpful to you as a parent to be working with people in your children's generation to understand more about their peers and what pressures, unique pressures they might be exposed to that we weren't. Maybe.
right, right.
I'm
They
not-
definitely have more challenges than we used to. It's much more competitive to get a job at 22 than it is to be 42.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. Because
recent college grads have a much higher unemployment rate. Yeah,
wow,
yeah, it's about double.
I'm so surprised by
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's really competitive. So I'm, whether it's my mom or parent clients, or it's my younger clients, it's a lot about branding. It's a lot about how are you unique, how do you stand out? Yeah.
Hmm. And then you need to stand out by having some experience. And if you're just out of school, you may not have that very much experience. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm a
Oh,
big fan of internships.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So
Agree.
developing that resume with internships. Yeah.
Agree. I know that you've written about your own personal story in your book. And how did that go over with your family?
Well, the truth of it is, I had my children read the book, the final draft, and I wanted them to feel comfortable with what I wrote. And um, my daughter's not as much highlighted in the book as the other two, the boys, but she was okay with that.
Mhm.
But I also wanted them to read the part about the divorce, because I wanted it to be very private. And really, just from my perspective, it wasn't me unloading about my ex-husband and their father in it. So, and at one point, I do compliment him that we are pretty good co-parents, and we had a fairly amicable divorce, a split for the benefit of them. So so yeah, I had my family read it. I think that in one of the chapters, I do talk about a very painful experience, which was the estrangement of my only sibling, my brother, who I think is going to be a little more painful for my mother to read that part. Although I don't call him his actual name. Um, so I'm not really trying to unload, dirty laundry.
Right?
But it is part of the painful aspects of my life that I had to overcome. So I do talk about different things: losing my father at a very young age, losing both my grandparents due to COVID, which was
Oh
devastating.
my gosh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
days apart.
Yeah.
All the stress that I had. One of the other things I want to hopefully people can get from the book is that chronic stress will take you down.
Mm,
So I've almost passed away twice due to some health
Oh,
crises. Yeah. So I'm actually very healthy now. Part of it is just taking better care of myself and managing my stress. But in the thick of all these crises that came back to back, I got very, very ill, and it was basically stress related.
wow.
So,
Was
so
that
my
before you wrote the book or after?
is yeah, before. I mean, I've had two very significant health crises and one minor one right before I started writing the book. But it
Wow.
I've overcome all of that with some good doctors and being managing two chronic illnesses. You know, at some point I found out that I have only one kidney that's functioning. So I live my life with one kidney. A lot of people do, but I'm hoping that that one kidney, you know, stays healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness. I had no idea that you had two life-threatening illnesses.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
At one point when my son was going down, like really he was in the rock bottom, I had migraines that were so debilitating I couldn't get out of bed. And when I finally got to the ER, my blood pressure was 156 over, no, 225 over 156 or something crazy like that. And I almost died of a stroke right in the ER. So that was totally stress related. It took me a very long time to come out of that, but I did. I lost my eyesight in the process, and so yeah. So I mean, one of the other reasons for writing this book is that, you know, if you cannot take, you have to get out of really stressful situations, or it really can take you down mentally, emotionally, and physically.
But you got your eyesight back?
Yeah, luckily.
Wow. I
Yeah.
cannot believe that happened. That is so scary.
Yes.
Gosh.
Yeah. So I'm a survivor of some
Whew.
things. I mean, I haven't had anything more. I mean, you know, I've had a lot of friends overcome cancer. I've had a few people in the book about that, but I have had some acute chronic or acute crises. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Gosh, I hadn't focused on that before, and that is really something that I'm sorry it happened to you, but I imagine it truly gives you credibility with other people who are in high stress situations. That makes you an even better life coach and consultant than
Mhm.
you already were before that. My gosh, that is
Mhm.
so incredible.
So
I've
just
only read
like you, I think that, you know, when you have struggled yourself, you can mentor or coach other people who are going through it. We can recognize it very quickly.
Mhm.
Um, we can help people get through that, and we have more empathy for people that are struggling. And so that's at the end of my book, I talk about how you have to help others on their journey, and if you see somebody struggling, don't walk away from it. You know, engage and try to help others, you know.
Absolutely. Wow. Now, you went to one of the best business schools in the country, Darden, which was I went to UVA Law School, your school,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
is so
we were
beautiful,
neighbors, yes.
was our neighbor. And I know it was really hard to be to graduate from that program. So going now into helping people start or reinvent their careers, what what does that feel like as a Darden student that you got off the hard charging track to do something to help other people? What led you to that decision and how does it feel since like me, a lot of my classmates are running firms, senators, high levels of government, whatever. And I
Mhm.
bet your colleagues, co-students also are. So would it if you could comment on that?
Sure. Um, yeah, so you know, after Darden, I went into investment banking, which is a very rigorous but very soul crushing profession, in my opinion.
Agree, agree.
It helped me pay off my loans.
Yep.
It helped me buy my first house with my husband, who was a classmate of mine, and he focused on private equity. But I think that the reason that I didn't really love investment banking because it was so focused on money, and it just is inherently not what I'm about. So, you know, how to extract money out of companies and fees and all that. And so um, it really, and then I did work for a startup, and that was actually really interesting. But I left that company because I started having children and I couldn't do all of it. And so I did take a couple of years off when we moved to Chicago, and didn't, no regrets. My two older children were like 2 and 5, so it was a good time to be with them. But I do think that I started this business in Chicago, and then when we moved to DC, I kept it going. But it's basically, I saw the struggle of women. It's called the opt-out revolution back then, where professional women were leaving the workforce because they were struggling so much of working and being a mom. So I've always tried to advocate that women stay in the workforce, even if it's on a part-time basis. So don't off ramp completely, because it is really challenging. It can be done, especially with someone like myself, who can guide you back to the workplace. But even if you start a business, a side business, or even if you stay in the workforce part-time, it's better to do it that way. And it also keeps you engaged and motivated. So I love career coaching and life coaching. I did it in college. I worked at Villanova in the Career Center, and I loved it. And I just decided that I wanted to make a business out of it. And it was a good way to, you know, stay engaged and help other people. I think I'm just altruistic. I mean, I think that's just one of my bigger values
Which
than
I love
material
about
wealth.
you. I love about you. And
Yeah.
similarly, my daughter is not motivated by money. She's motivated by helping other people.
Mhm.
So I really admire that about you, Christine. And I know that we have so many things we can talk about, but would you be willing to give a tip, a top tip or two to the listeners of what they might find in your book about the stages of living that you developed and identified? Like some little one or two little tidbits of something someone might implement to improve their lives.
I guess the biggest thing is to get out of survival mode once the crisis has subsided. To and that starts with your basic needs, but moving yourself into a more stable place to me is a critical step. It's necessary, and so which a stable place will pull down your, calm your nervous system. You can actually you'll do a better job in terms of making better decisions. um, you will have your relationships won't suffer. You will not feel, you'll have better sleep. All of that will just, your overall wellness will improve. But what I would say as a tip is, don't stay there the rest of your life. Like, don't get stuck in stabilization, even though it feels comfortable, and you can get into a routine with it. Stagnation is the risk, and it's a choice. So that means that you can't. What I'm trying to do with the book is push people towards emerging stage, which then can get them to a thriving state. And a thriving state is really, you can accomplish that. I define full potential in the book in 4 components. One is setting and achieving realistic goals. Number 2 is obtaining skills and knowledge relevant to those goals. 3 is developing inner strength and resilience, or tapping into it if you already have developed it. And then 4 is having a positive mindset. So if you can have those kind of components in your life, you really can get on your way into an emerging and then a thriving state. And emerging is just simply just preparing to thrive. It's just sort of getting ready for it. And it's coming out of your cocoon.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, and in our case, we share the experience of being divorced. So to me, that's one of those life storms, but you can really emerge into a new version of yourself, and you can really come out the other side of some of these crises, and you can really thrive in the aftermath.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. I love that quote. Stagnation is a risk and a choice. Wow, that's gold.
Mhm.
It's true. but
Mhm.
you put it so succinctly and powerfully that there's a poem that I quoted in my book: to not settle for the gray safety that sameness promises.
I love that.
Yeah, it really
Love. That's
moves me.
exactly the same thing I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, that, yeah, some people fall into that trap of just
Right.
being okay. Well, who wants to live their whole life just okay? I don't. I want more.
Right. And one of the myths that I talk about in the book is that a lot of women think that they need to be in a stable, but it can be a stagnant place raising their children.
Mm.
Like they want to stand, in the effort to be stable and create a stable life for their children that they where they can thrive, they sort of hang back, and they definitely, my clients and my friends have complained about that they might not have chosen to do it that way if they looking back on it. So it's not, you don't have to just stay still for your children to grow and thrive.
Boy, I wish I had met you 20 years ago. I thought I had to. That's for sure. I left my law practice. I
Mhm.
was an appointee in the Clinton administration, and
Mhm.
I thought I had to be what I didn't get when I was a kid. I was a
Yep,
latchkey kid.
same with me. Yep.
And that's simply not true, but I didn't have anyone who would tell me that. So hopefully we'll
But
save.
look at what you're doing now, right?
It was a circuitous route, but I am in a very, very
Very good
thriving
place.
state, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
you are.
So I ask all of my guests, because I've never gotten the same answer, and I included in an ebook after a couple of seasons, because all of you, including you, have an immense amount of wisdom that I think can help people like me and all the listeners, which and readers, which is, what do you do, Christine, to become your best version?
So one of the things I'm really focused on now is living in the moment
Mm.
instead of always planning ahead. And planning ahead was actually a coping mechanism for me, because my life was so chaotic that I planning ahead sort of helped me, um, yeah, just sort of get through the difficult times by like thinking ahead to something more positive. But today I'm really just focusing on living in the moment, being more present, being more I'm into mindfulness for the first time in my life.
Yep.
Um, I post divorce, I'm working on just the happier version of myself, which is, having full of courage to take risks, like writing a book for the first time.
Yeah.
Really focusing on gratitude for the blessings that I have, and focusing on my relationships. So that's a pretty big shift for me. I was always just what's ahead, what's ahead, what's ahead. And I love living in the moment. Just love it.
That is beautiful. I made a similar metamorphosis in the last 10 years, and it's really paying off. So I applaud you, the work that you do to help people start, reinvent their careers, learn about themselves through the lens of your experience, which is pretty amazing. And now we have a book. So I encourage all of you to look for Surviving Life Storms and Thriving in the Aftermath, which you can get at any bookstore, Amazon, or on her website, which
Yep.
is careersconsulting.com.
Right.
Take a look at her LinkedIn and her Instagram pages. And she's going to be doing more public speaking about her findings and her research, and she's an excellent life coach and career coach. So
Thank you.
I'm so grateful you had time to be on this podcast.
Thank
And
you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I did as well. So tune in next week for another amazing woman who can help you elevate your life.